What's going on? It's Alex Foster. Welcome back to Game Time 123. We have on our episode over episode 2 of the Season for Sports Hour is the NBL 2026. This is week 1 of the hits. We'll talk about each of the teams' games throughout this week. And the first game is on. To make sure I have it right here. I believe it's on the 17th. Still the 17th. It's the 19th. It's Thursday at 10, so it's on the 19th. For some reason, I have it on the 17th on my thing here, but that's fine. We'll see. It is on this Thursday, so on the 20th of this week, going into it. All right, get on to it. We're going to talk about each of the teams going into this season. It's going to be very hard. Last year would have been on the 17th. Is on the 19th, so 2/19 is the first actual season point of the games. Alright, so we get to talk about each of the games going into it. We're going to start off with the Panthers and the Bulldogs. Panthers and Bulldogs will face off. The Panthers are favored by 1. This is going to be a very tough game between these two teams. This is going to be one of the more tougher games because the Panthers have a great draft. Got a great draft class this year. They have an about 86, 87 overall. So they're a little bit lower on the context here. The Bulldogs, on the other hand, have about 86 overall. So they're pretty even when it comes down to it. The two players that are going to make it really difficult for the Bulldogs. The Bulldogs have Sarah Fairchild, who is their best player, who would be their best player, and Claire Dimon, which was they got 2 years ago. Both of them are their best players on it. Versus they've got the Panthers. Panthers have they got both the Storms. They've got both the Thomases, they've got both of the Garcias, and they've got this year they've got Misty Long as well. All these players going in it, huge players in it. The Panthers are in a really big position. I think honestly this is going to be a very, very high scoring game, and this is going to be very tough for both teams. In my opinion, this could go either way. And this is going to be probably one of the tougher matches for the week. The only thing I have about favoring the Panthers are the Panthers have never lost week 1. It's hard to believe that, but they've never lost week 1. They're the only team that has never lost week 1. And with that, it's going to be very tough for them to actually have lost one. Panthers have also been to the Ballbowl most times. But looking at all the positions for it, the Panthers have done really well. They lost 2 games this last season. They're 133-5. Never tied. They have a 96% win rate when it goes to it. And to be honest, to me, it's going to be very tough. They're facing the Bulldogs. Bulldogs are nowhere near as good. They're about halfway. They have 122 games played. They've only won 49 games. They've lost 72 times and tied once. To me, I just don't think it's fair. The Bulldogs have only made the playoffs once, and even though they've got a really strong team this year, to me, it's going to be so tough for them to win anything. I'm going to go with Panthers to win this week, even though I do think it's going to be a very high-scoring game. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a 20-point game in the end, but like being over 120 points. All right, Dragons and Knights. You can go and give the game of the week, please. Thank you. So that's another tough one. It's actually probably a tougher matchup regularly, anyways. Just because the context here is the Dragons have been really good recently. The Dragons are kind of like a team. Actually, right now the Dragons are more of a team that are going like, we've been really good, then we're really bad, really good, really bad, really bad, really good. They've gone back and forth between us. They're actually under by. They have 142. They have actually got 4 more games than the Panthers do in the end. They have 142 games played. And that's 60 wins, 80 ties, and 80 losses and 2 ties. They've made the playoffs five times, which to me is going to make it a very, very interesting on the context. Now, the Knights are a little bit better overall because of the context they have played more often, and they're also the team that often plays against the Panthers. They're 68, 43, and 4 with 119 wins. They have a much better percentage overall. They've also made the playoffs like a lot, I think. Let's see how many times they made the playoffs. They've made the playoffs 13 times. And I have not even included the last year's. I'll have to do that. I'll have to update that. But to me, this is going to be a very tough game between these two teams. I mean, to be honest, Dragons are favored by 4. I am going to favor, in this game, the Knights. I think the Knights are going to be a winner in this game. And I think, honestly, this game is one of those games that's going to decide a lot more than just who makes. I think also this one's going to be deciding more about who makes the playoffs or not. I mean, honestly, I think both of them are going to make the playoffs, and that's going to be a huge position for it. We've got the Browns and the Legends, and to be honest, this is a tough one for me because the Legends I have predicted not to do well at all. If we look back at the Legends stat lines overall, the Legends have only played for 3 seasons. They were really good in season 1. That was in 2023. Then they have gone way downhill. They were 5-11 in 2024. They're 2-14 last year. They have 17 wins and 31 losses. They've only played 20 games. They made the playoffs the first time they were in the year, but since then they've struggled. However, with their roster as it is right now, I think they got a better chance to actually make the playoffs with the context. They got some really good rookies. They've got a great point off of this. It's going to be tough because the Browns are one of the really tough teams. But I don't think the Browns are nearly as good as the Legends. And to be honest, even though I predicted that the Legends were not going to do well this year, I am going to pick the Legends this week. I'm going to pick that the Legends will do better than what I think they're actually going to do. I do think the Legends might not do well overall, but if they can actually do work really well, this is going to be a blowout. So I think the Browns are kind of a team that shouldn't really be iffy per se. But between the Legends on making it making it one time and do it twice, the Browns are kind of an interesting team. I mean, they've made it more times. They made it a lot actually. They only made it 4 times, but they've gone consistent pretty much in the last couple of years. Even though they didn't make it last year, and I realize I did update these, but I'm going to say right now, it's going to be very tough. I'm going to put the Legends. I may not have any confidence in that. The Legends are favored in this game. We got the Bobcats and the Werewolves. Okay, well, I don't know what to say about the Bobcats and Werewolves. I mean, the Bobcats are one of those teams that have been really good for a long time, and then they've gone down. They've gone kind of downhill. They're kind of in the iffy portion. They're not the best team. They're not the worst team, but they are playing one of the better teams. They're playing the Werewolves, who were at one time called the Hamlin Balls. So, to be honest, the Werewolves are not doing the best either, but they have done kind of decide whether they're good or bad. They were bad, then they were good, they were bad, and they were good, they were bad, then they were good. They've gone back and forth between this, and this year would be the year they would be bad, according to the way that there is. The Werewolves are barely over the actual percentage. They're 60, 58, and 3. On the other side, you have the Bobcats, who are just over the amount, 64, 61, and 3. So both these teams are very balanced teams in context. Werewolves are favored. Based on what I know from these two teams, this is going to be very, very tough. I mean, I really have to go to what they're drafted, and I think the Werewolves. To look at the Werewolves draft portion was pretty decent. They weren't the best. It wasn't the best draft on the context. It was an 85. It was so decent, I guess, is the best thing to say about here. On the other side, the Bobcats did not draft well. They did an 87 overall, which means they should have done better. But they got some of the worst, they got some of the best players, and then they got the worst players. In my opinion, I think it's what's going to cost in the end. I'm picking the Werewolves. I do think the Werewolves will have the edge in this game. All right, the Cardinals and the Dogs and the Cardinals. Okay, so the Dogs are one of those teams that have really done very well. The Dogs, since 2017, have made the playoffs quite a bit. Well, they're also one of those teams that kind of like we're going to be really good, then really bad, then really good, then really bad. They were really good these last 2 years, which means technically they should be really bad this next year. But in context, they're playing the Cardinals, and the Cardinals are not a good team. It went back to where the Cardinals were really good. They have done terribly the last couple of years. I don't think there's a chance the Cardinals are able to win this game. I'm going to give the Dogs the benefit of the doubt. This is at 9 o'clock on Monday, so maybe that does something, but even though the Cardinals are favored, I just don't see it happening. We got the Foxes and the Pirates. Pirates have actually done for the last couple of years. They've not done great. They've not done very well at all. They're just kind of like a team that's it. However, as for the Foxes, they've only played 3 seasons, and they've done really good. And then they went, dang, they've lost both games. They've played in only 48 games. And they are 23 and 25 in those games. So not exactly the best position. When we look at the Pirates, they've played 122 games. They played a lot more. They're not even much better, though. They're at 57, 30, 61, and 4. Based on the context, I really have to look kind of what their draft was based on. And to me, I think that is what's going to really decide this for me. Pirates got a decent position. They didn't do terribly. And the Foxes, yeah, they got some decent players too. I mean, honestly, it's pretty balanced. I think it's going to come down to the fact that the Foxes are going to be have a hard position. They're just hard chance. I think it's going to be tough. For me, I think Raven Knob, who will be here last season, is going to have to be leading this team by a long shot in order to be able to get them to ever win. And I think only that one player versus the Pirates, who have a whole bunch of good players, I gotta give the Pirates the win here. I think this is going to be a very, very one-sided game, to be honest. I don't think the Foxes are going to be good this year. I have the Foxes being one of the worst teams, unfortunately. But we'll see. Maybe they'll surprise us later this season. We got the Indians and the Cardinals. Indians, I believe. Look at the Indians. The Indians have kind of been really iffy. Really iffy. Most seasons, they are pretty much buffering on the line and going downhill. The only season was they had a 16-0 season 2 years ago in 2024, but otherwise they have not really done well. They had 136 games they've played. They're 58, 53, 80, and 3. They're only like a 40% win rate. They've only made a playoffs once. Actually, they made a playoffs twice because they made it in 2024. But in context, I just don't see it happening. I'm going to give Hawks the win here. I just don't think there's any chance. I think the Indians do have something coming, but they're just not the team right now. Hawks have a whole lot better draft portions, basis of the context here. If you looked at the Hawks, have a much more balanced team. They also are going to have a lot of people that are leaving the team. But I think, honestly, with the basics of the context here, I'm going to go with the Hawks winning this game. Kings and Ravens. Kings are favored in this game. I do not think I'm going to see this to be a very good game at all, to be honest. I feel like it's going to be completely one side. The Kings only been around 3 seasons. Their best record was an 8-8 record, and that was in their first season. They're one of the few teams that have never made the playoffs. They haven't even come close. Their best record is 8-8, and I think in that year the records were like not even close to that. As for the Ravens, in the context, they've made the playoffs several times. In fact, they've made it more times than their teams. They've made it 3 times. They have only have like an average record. They have 64 wins, 62 losses, and to be honest, that's gonna be tough. They did not make it last year. They have not done very well, but they're playing the Kings, and to be honest, I feel like the Ravens are going to do a whole lot better. Even the Kings are favored. I cannot justify giving it to the Kings. All right, Bears and Tigers. Bears, I think, have a pretty. They've only played 3 seasons, and let me just be honest, they've never made the playoffs either. They have not made the playoffs. Their best record was a 7-9 record. They haven't even made it to the point where they have gone a better. They've made 49 games, 15 wins, 33 losses. That's terrible. This is not going to be one of those teams that is going to. They need to be able to turn around. I think the Bears do have a chance to turn it around going into this year, but not when they overpay players. Samantha Sharp is the player they got this year. 9 overall players. They're paying her $20,000 in the context. And they're playing a lot of players just way too much. And be honest, unless that somehow is going to bring them into a point where they're going to be super good because they are being paid so much, I don't know what in earth is going to happen. They are playing the Tigers, which is not one of the better teams this year. Tigers did not draft well. Their best play, they got an 80 overall, basically in a draft. Their best player is Zorel Averill. And yeah, it's just not going to go well for the Tigers this year. However, when it comes to the fact that the Bears haven't done too well, it's not going to. I don't know how well it's going to do. Tigers, on the other hand, have made the playoffs quite a bit. They have made the playoffs with 1, 2. Okay, how many times have they made the playoffs? They've made the playoffs 11 times, twice of them to the Ballbowl. So, in my opinion, this is going to be a very one-sided game, even though the Bears are favored. I'm giving the Tigers the win here. I do think the Tigers have a better overall team, even though they're going to have probably. If they can't balance it, I'm not going to pick them again. But right now, I think the Tigers are going to be better than the Bears. We got the Giants and the Angels. Looking back, at the Giants. I spelled it wrong. I always spell Giants wrong. Giants, let me just be honest, they've never been good. They've made the playoffs in 2022. That was the only time they made the playoffs. They made it and lost in the conference championship round. But since then, their best record has been 8-7-1. They have not really been good, ever. In the context, have the Angels been good? Angels have been a little bit better. They've made playoffs twice. But back in the day, they made it 2017 and 2020. So, yeah, these teams are not going to be... These are going to be a pretty sad game for me in either way. I look at the Giants. I think it comes down to really what the Giants picked. And the Giants have a better overall picks. They have a 90 overall basic, which is pretty good. When you look at the Angels, which is the other side, let me look here. I think the Angels are on top. The Angels are a very balanced team, but they did not pick as well. This is tough, but I'm going to pick the Giants. I do not like either one of these teams right now. I think both of them are going to be. It's going to be a very tough game. All right, we got the Falcons and the Saints. This is not a divisional matchup. Let me put that out right now. This is not the NFL. The Falcons have been good. They were good, really good this last year, but they have been kind of iffy. They were in two. They have made the playoffs 5 times. They made both of the 2015 seasons, and they made it in the last 2018. But they've made it 2025, and they've done pretty well when it comes to it. Versus who they're playing against, the Saints. I also played the Saints wrong. I love when I can't spell. That's what happens when you have dyslexia. Yeah, they've done decently. Back in like 2016, they've been in the last couple of years. Their last good season was 2022, but then they lost one of their star players when it comes to it. Saints have some of their good players still. They have Flex Jarrett, but the problem is they don't play Flex Jarrett enough. And I think with the context what they need to do, if they don't play a lot of the players, it's gonna be tough. And that is honestly why I am picking the Falcons to win this game. I just don't think there's a chance. All right, we get the Tex and the Leland Cats. The Tex overall did not do well at all in the area. They had an 80 overall versus the Cats, who did fairly well, not great, but fairly well. They've got some more players. They've got some of the best players. I got Beverly Griffin still on their team. And to be honest, though, unfortunately, the Tex are just not going to be the team this year that has enough to win. Especially with the Tex kind of blowing it out, they got the worst player in the league. They got the 56 overall player, which is the worst you can get in the hits. I don't know, maybe they saw something with Caroline Hennessy, and if Caroline Hennessy does do something really good, but they do have some good players, and to be honest, it's going to be very tough for me to pick against the Tex because of the contest. They do have a pretty big power lineup, and they got some good experienced players. I am going to take a risk here, and I'm going to pick the Tex. I do think it's going to be a very tough game, and if the Tex do win this game, wow. But it's just going to be tough. It's going to be a tough game. We have the Jets and the Colts. Yeah. The Jets really needed to do better in their draft. They've got it decently. They got some good players in there, but when their team they're facing is the Colts have a whole lot better position when it comes to it. They got some of the better players going into it in the draft, and they have more experience. Now, the thing is, the Colts are not going to be good next year. I will say that right now. They're not going to be good. They're losing 9 players this next season. So I think the Colts are going to win this week. But after next season, who knows? We got UNC and Lightning. Okay, so UNC, United National Cats. Yes, I'm wearing a UNC shirt, but it's not National Cats. They did decently in the draft, and they got some good players. I just don't see how they're going to do super well when it goes to hits. They got the Lightning going on here, and I think honestly this is going to be a very, very high scoring, very close game. Lightning are favored here, and to be honest, I know UNC. a lot of people, everyone picked LSU, picked UNC. I actually think the Lightning have a good chance. They've got some good players. They got Francis Marie Holm, who is their highest overall player, and they got some good players in it. I think with the right they're prone to have a chance to win this game. I'm picking the Lightning to win this game. Okay, our Thursday game on 10 o'clock on Thursday is going to be the Dolphins. I think this is going to be an absolute bloodbath between these teams because the Athens got some premium players, but they got some players, but they got some good players. They got Ismar Osborne, not Aaron on him, and they still got some good players. They got Besiege Baratus Richer. They got some great players on this, and for this season, those are all going to be really, really good players. Unfortunately, this is where it gets to be difficult because the Dolphins really have a great balanced team. The problem is, I just don't see how they're going to do well. They got some good players. They got some good. They got Alex Nevada, which is a really good player. But I feel like, first off, they're going to do it's all going to be offense, the Dolphins, or they're going to be trying in their offense. Athens have all their defensive players all positioned and doing really well. To me, the Athens are going to be playing the defensive game with their rookies they got this year, and honestly, I have pretty good respect to say how the Athens is. I'm going to actually say it's going to be the Athens that win this game. It's going to be a very, very tough game, though. Again, I think this game is going to be very low scoring, and it's also going to be a bloodbath between. We got the Warriors and Stars. This is going to be one of the highest scoring games. If we look to the Warriors have only played for 3 seasons. They've done pretty well. Their worst record is an 8-8. And that was it. They're 35-29. So they're kind of in the middle. They're kind of average. They've made in 2023 and 2025. They missed last year. No, they made it last year. They missed 2024, but they're still very, very good team. When it goes to the Stars also have only been there for a few years. They, however, are kind of in a position. They went 14-2, and then they went 0-16, and then they went 14-2 again. So they're kind of, if this is the year, they might go another 0-16 season. But I think honestly they're going to be a lot better of a team. And even though I think this is going to be a very, very high scoring and very tough game, looking at how the Stars drafted this year, they got some players, not really players they really needed on the context. And the same thing happened to the Warriors. So neither one of these teams did draft very well. And to be honest, I think it's going to come down to one player. One player. Lucio Darcel on the Stars is the best player on the field. This Nessa Salmon is a great player. She's a 9-0 player as well. So both of these players are going to be pretty big and a great stance. This is going to be a tough game for me. And to be honest, I'm going to pick the Stars. I do not know anything to say this is going to be. I think it's going to be a very close game, a very high-scoring game. I wouldn't be surprised this is going to be over a 300-point game, which I know is kind of crazy, which means that each team scores 150 points or more. But, it happens. It can happen. Beagles and the Lynx. I don't know if I want to go with this one. The Lynx drafted really well. They got Philip Holt, which is it, and they also have Ruby Jackson and Rosa Sharp. All these players, 99 overall players, all of them really, really good. When they play against the Beagles, let's just look at the Beagles. Or maybe we shouldn't try to look at the Beagles. The Beagles did not draft well whatsoever. They got every host. That's it. They have no real reasons. They got Carol Flankin, which is the best player they've got on the defensive position. I don't think there's a chance. Lynx win this game by a long shot. I think +3 is completely inaccurate. But unfortunately, this is how it's going to be, how it's done this week. Basically, how their overalls were done in the draft for their actual roster at the end of the season is how it's done this year. We got a Monday game. It's going to be Packers and Superman. This is going to be a tough game. I think, honestly, this will decide which of these teams is good and which of these teams is not good. Packers had some great players. They got Shelley King. They got Ripley. Both those teams are defense plans. I think, honestly, the Packers are going to be up there and doing really good defensive playing. Defensive. Everything's going to be defense for the Packers. If they can do really well in the defense, then they're going to do outstanding this year. Or at least they're going to do it if they can get the right players. On the other side, it'll be all offense. It'll be Sky Granger, Kajin. That could do it as well. I mean, you got Reynolds. You got some good players in here. I don't think they drafted well. And that's the reason I'm picking the Packers. I don't think that the Supermen are going to do well enough to make it to this point. But it's possible. It's possible. Okay, it's going to be the Chargers and the Otters. Oh, wow. This is going to be a really interesting game because you guys won't remember this, but there was a game last year where it was the Chargers and Otters. I think they're the same division, so that would make sense. Where the Chargers were ahead by, 50 points? 65 points, yeah, at one point. And the Otters came back and won that game. The Otters are a little bit of a lower team. They did not draft the best. Honestly, I think it's going to come down to really how good their team is overall. The Otters aren't going to be a bad team. Unfortunately, they're facing against the Chargers in Week 1. If the Otters do happen to come back, at least coming into Week 1, it's going to be a lot. The Chargers, however, I think did better overall, and they do have the better players. The Chargers are probably not going to be nearly as good as I am going to pick the Chargers this week. It's going to be tough. All right, our last game is going to be the Huskies and the Lions. Ooh, this is probably going to be another game that's going to decide what teams are good, what teams are bad. Because the Huskies drafted decently. They got Samantha Sampson, one of the better players. And actually, one of Sampson's, by the way, to point out this way, the Sampsons have always played on the Panthers from previously to this point. This is the first time player has not played, that a Sampson has not played on the Panthers. They got some great players. They got chance. Their team, however, it's kind of low. They only have like an 84 overall team. I think it's going to have to come down to working together to decide whether they are actually good or not. And the Lions, they're not really any better, to be honest. They're probably actually worse overall. They got some good players, and I had to pick the Huskies this week, but it's coming down to the point that I do think it's going to be a very, very tough game. these are the games going into this next week. And to be honest, these are all going to be probably not even close meetings. I wouldn't be surprised if, a team that's actually not favored wins. I'm going to say it's very possible that the Cardinals come back and win this game. It's possible also, the Colts actually lose against them. It's possible also Lightning and surprising us by winning by a lot. That's why I picked them there. But it's very also possible the Dolphins do a lot better. The last thing we're going to talk about today is the fact that I'm currently working on every single logo for every single Ballbowl. There has been one for the Panthers. They were recorded, but not really uploaded. So I will have those uploaded at some points, probably towards the middle of the season. That is it for this video. That's for Sports Hour episode number 1. And I will see you guys in the next week. And this will be interesting to see what happens. See you guys in the next video.